So continuing on from yesterday, where we began to look at how we will go about crafting our overall objective as well as our specific objectives or subsidiary objectives. And today we want to look at that, and we would also want to look at how we arrive at creating our project components and activities. Now, these two, one could say, go well together in terms of your understanding of how to build them, because in a sense, the whole idea of breaking down the project into components, especially as you would have learned from Ms. Debreo in terms of the project phases, project life cycle, can also usefully aid in coming up with your specific objectives. And I will return to that. Just bear that in mind. But first, what we want to do is to be able to arrive at our overall objective. First of all, have a clear understanding of what we mean by overall objective. Your overall objective is basically a broad action that indicates in general what you intend to achieve by pursuing the project. And so therefore, it always starts off by to do this or to do that. Okay, so the broad objective of a project should be based on what you are seeking to achieve out of the project, and therefore should be developed looking at what you are saying is your platform that you will be using as your intervention. It should also include your stakeholder community, your target community, and of course, how is it that you intend to bring these two elements together? When one looks at a broad objective, one should clearly see that. I would say that if one looks at your title of your project, that is supposed to help you. In any event, most of us, when asked the question, what is this project about? You usually start off somewhere in there by saying this project seeks to. And so chances are within that approach to answering that particular question, you would be able to arrive at your broad objective. Is everybody clear on that so far?
Yes.
All right. May I hear from the others as well? Everyone
Yeah.
clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Felix, could you unshare for a moment and let me put up
Sure.
yes, let me see if I can find it. It's actually what was up just now. Right. Has it come up?
Not yet.
Clicking on it and then not allowing me. This thing is crazy. Let's try one more time. Okay, this one is sharing. Right. So this is from a previous festival project, and this student, Carice Marie Rollins, she actually won the prize for festival project that year. I think actually that's the last year. Last year. And her project, see how she have all her stuff filled out there? Her project was called A Theater Near Youth, playing on you with youth, a theatrical caravan of encouragement, expression, and experiences that will change lives. And her short title was A Theater Near Youth. And the idea behind this project was that children living in rural areas hardly had the opportunity to engage with the theater world, because as you know, theater is usually close to the capitals, you know, whether it be Port of Spain or the other city, San Fernando. But these are children who are all based in Buenos Aires. Does anybody here know where Buenos Aires is? Let me see. Let me see how well Trinidadians know their country. Anyone here knows where Buenos Aires is? No, but Phyllis, do you know?
Yes, I've been there already.
Crystal, you've been there already?
Yeah.
Yes. Where is that exactly?
I
Who
don't know,
raised?
but I've been there.
I'm not hearing you very well. Your thing is quite muffled.
Oh, I say I don't know exactly, but I've been there. I have a friend living there.
Okay, right, all right. Nobody else here knows where it is? Wow, my goodness. Well, Buenos Aires is one of the last communities you would get to down on that tip that's close to Venezuela, right? So that is beyond Point 14, but it's before Cedrus, right? So clearly, these children living in this particular area of Trinidad and Tobago would hardly, unless someone took the theater to them, would hardly have an opportunity to be exposed to theater, the performing arts as a whole. And so, for that reason, the student at the time, Ms. Rollins, decided that she would do that as her project. And so, if you look here, her specific objective was as follows: to take the theater to underprivileged children as a means of engaging them in the performing arts, using the vehicles of theater with each other since they are unable to go to an actual theater or be part of the theatrical world. If you look at that objective, you are seeing where this is the platform of intervention here to take the theater. This is the target community here, underprivileged children, right? And you are seeing inside of there what it is she is hoping to achieve out of linking the platform of intervention to the stakeholder community, to the target community, to engage them as a means of engaging them in the performing arts. But she did something else that was quite clever in a sense, which is that she also found a way to loop back in what would have been part of her problematic. Because she says, since they are unable to go to an actual theater or be part of the theatrical world. Does everybody see that and understand then how one might be able to craft your broad objective? Any questions about that? Right. Not hearing anybody. Any questions about that?
No.
Not
All right. So I want, did anyone have opportunity to work on it? I did ask that you should try your hand at it. Was it this class or the other class I had? I can't remember. I think it's you all. Not so? Did
yeah,
anybody
yesterday.
try their hand at crafting their broad objective? And if so, could I hear? Well, I heard Felix yesterday, I believe. Um, is there anyone else who would like to offer up their broad objective that we can hear?
Um, Mine is to teach athletes how they can use dance as a means of enhancing their sporting performance.
There you go. Excellent. Who is speaking there? Is that Nicole?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. So you're hearing that very simple. You're hearing the target community, you're hearing the platform of intervention, and you are hearing what it is she is hoping to get out of connecting those two elements together. Great. So I think we can go from here. So the question now is, how then do we arrive at the specific objectives now? So I like to say that one thinks about what are the particular things that you believe you would need to pursue in order to achieve the broad objective. And I'll repeat that. I like to see, or I like to say that to be able to create your specific objectives, you have to consider, think about the things, specific things that you need to be pursuing in order to achieve that broad objective. Whatever is needed. Now, when we say whatever, we don't mean everything in the kitchen sink, but we really means the key things. And those tend to be your specific objectives. One of the approaches one can take to defining those specific objectives is to use the project life cycle model that Ms. Debreu would have taught you about, the phases. So we know that a project would have the phases of conceptualization, planning, right? Implementation, execution, um, evaluation, feedback, event, project closure. And so for every one of those phases, you could ask yourself, okay, in relation to this project where I say that this is the broad objective, what do I need to be achieving at the conceptualization phase? So, for example, yesterday someone made mention about what if it is that you don't know? I think it was Felix. You have to go learn a skill to be able to in turn teach your target community. That one of your broad objectives. Sorry, that could be one of your specific objectives that you have to pursue, you have to carry out at the conceptualizing phase, so to speak. Because as you know, you have to be able to be ready to impart whatever skill or knowledge or competence that you want to give to your target community. So that would have to happen at the stage of conceptualizing, like all now, you should be engaging in an exercise like that if it is that you don't have the skill already. Everybody understands that? Any questions about that? Right? So I would suggest that you use the broad phases, and this is going to come back in handy again when you look at project components, as you will see shortly. I would suggest that you take the broad phases of the project life cycle and use those so that you can, it's like you have to imagine it. All right, so what at the planning phase, what should I be doing? So a broad objective could be to document or to fully plan out the project details, but I'm saying it in a general way because, of course, I am not in a particular project, but you would make your specific objectives, as the word says, specific, um, very much relevant to what is your project and, of course, relevant to your broad objective, as you would have stated before. The point is, though, class, most importantly, is that when you look at your specific objectives, you should be able to see the project chronicled from the conceptualization stage right down to the to documentation, to feedback and evaluation. So if you look here at Carice's, so to be able to achieve this broad objective she has here, everybody seeing it clearly or is a bit fine still?
Can you? Yeah, I was now about to ask if you could zoom it up a bit.
Right. That better now? So if you look, you would see here that based on this broad objective, these specific objectives that she has here takes you from saying, okay, so she has, and they're all quite specific in one form or the other, and they have some of them where necessary have the time span to expose the children to the elements of theater, storytelling, monologue. And so she specifies what aspects of theater she will be using, and within a period of 3 months. So you all should be doing whatever is the, so for example, whatever these dance techniques that are being used in relation to the target community, identify what are some of the elements that make up that particular technique that the people would be exposed to, whatever are the key elements. All right, because when anybody comes to look at the project now, they can say, aha, right, this project, based on what I am seeing online here, okay, this project clearly um, is achieving the objective that it has set out. Because I am seeing the project manager, the student, is utilizing, as in this case here, she's trying to teach monologue, and the students are engaging in monologue to encourage them to overcome their fears and become brave. I remember when I evaluated this, I remember saying to her that this had to be to follow the SMART criteria a bit more. How could we improve this particular objective to make it more SMART? Anybody wants to suggest what else could be added to that to make it a stronger objective?
Maybe put a time frame.
So you could put a time frame. Yes, you could. What else? What else? What else could be added to that? It says to encourage them to, yes?
You could probably say how, what about the project is encouraging them to become brave.
Yes, what will you be using or what will you be doing that would allow for them to overcome their fears and become brave? So it could better read to give students an opportunity to perform their own monologues or their own storytelling pieces that aid them in overcoming their fears and becoming brave, right? And so that is basically how you would go about. Someone turn off your mic, please. That is basically how you would go about ensuring that your objectives are following that SMART criteria and that you have relevant objectives. If you look down at what she has, you would see they basically chronicle the project in a sense, and you can see where. So look at this one here now: to execute an event that harnesses and highlights the talents of the students of Buenos Aires Government Primary School. The target market of 100 attendees is the success. I believe that's where it. So what that objective is pointing at what? What do you think that objective would have been about? What was she talking about there?
Showcase.
That is the showcase, correct. So the point is you should have an objective that reflects your showcase. There should be one that reflects what you are doing specifically to achieve the first one, to achieve your broad objective in relation to your target community, such as the first one she has here. You should have a specific objective that zeroes in on whatever may be the challenge or the deficit that your target community is experiencing, which is what she tried to do here, but we corrected it just now by saying how we would improve on that. And I believe these two fell in that domain. And she would have also looked to share meaning and hope to the children within the community of Buenos Aires. So there was specifics there because we knew it was to be with the children in this specific community. I believe with this she had to improve it a little bit to say by way of, oh, somebody, why did it do that? Are you all seeing the same screen or it has changed?
It's changed.
Seeing the Teams page.
You probably click something in the taskbar. Yeah, we seen the document again. We're not hearing.
Yes, I was saying I hope that that little example now has helped. Is everybody hearing me again now? It's very strange.
Yes, I'm hearing.
Hearing again.
Right. Something going on here with this. How strange. Because I didn't touch anything. This is where I was and I saw the mic actually went on mute. So I was saying that I hope that this helps. This has clarified for you a lot more in terms of how you will go about crafting your broad objective and your specific objectives. Are there any questions about this before we go on to the next component? Right? No questions? Okay. So let us I'm going to unshare here and I will ask Felix to reshare again with us, please, the festival project template. And I want to deal with one other thing before we go. I believe I would like for us to have another makeup class on Thursday. If we do that, we will be fully back on track next week. So we can have one again Thursday and then Friday, which would allow us to complete going through the proposal. And then I believe the following week you would have a lecture with Dr. Wesley again.
Hi, I'm in class. I'm in a class. I'll have to call. I'm in a class. I'll have to call you back.
Okay, so we can scroll down now. Ah, here we are. Right. So now what we have here is a table titled Project Components and Activities. And what this is requiring you to do now is to start to think of your project now in real time, in reality now. This is not theory or just an idea now, but to study the project as a practical exercise. And you see there are three colors: project phases, project components, and specific activities. And this is to be filled out based on breaking down the project into the components according to the project life cycle. So we come back to the same life cycle lecture that Mr. Bray would have given us. So if we don't remember, we can always go back to that and look and see what she taught us about that aspect. And the idea is that for every phase, you should have a name for that phase. So for example, phase one, as we know, is usually the start of the project, beginning. What have we learned happens at the beginning phase of the project? What usually happens at the start? So you can give it a name. So phase one could be um Could be inception, if you want. And I know that in the project life cycle terminology, they may call it conceptualization. Anything like that, you can certainly Google this and look up what are the phases of a project life cycle and use that terminology. Okay. So what happens now during the phase of inception? What happens during the time of conceptualization? What are some of the things that, what are some of the components that make up conceptualizing? So I have an example there already. Yes, go ahead, Andrew.
Well, obviously you would have brainstorming and drafting and editing and rewriting and fine tuning and
Now
tweaking
look at
and all that.
this. Those are your specific activities. So let us go on the journey with Andrew. So you see how that came to mind? That wouldn't be in component, but what you're identifying there are activities. So you would put that there so you don't forget it. So it's brainstorming. What else did you say? Drafting. I
Rewriting, editing.
proposal writing and editing. Right? So those are specific activities. So those activities are part of, one can say, you could say as a component project, concept development. You could say that another component inside of inception is planning, right? And for every, so you would leave out a line. So for planning as a component, proposal writing would be the one there. So do you see how it would be laid out, class? Right? So project concept development requires you to do drafting, brainstorming. I like to use a term called ideation, which is an actual word, right? Because all of that are that is how you would arrive at your project concept and what have you. Um, you could have here as well. You could have here as well, not under concept development, one page, formulation. Forgive the typos, but sometimes I type quickly and I don't ever have the patience sometimes to go back at it till I'm finished typing whatever. Is everybody following me? You're so quiet. Right. So this is just one example here I'm showing you. What is likely to be phase two? Let's see if we can work it through a little bit. What's phase two? What would be phase two? Can I hear someone who doesn't talk? Is Orena here with us today?
Proposal, presenting a proposal.
Presenting the proposal. That sounds like inception and conceptualizing to me still. Think of the project phases. Go look back at your notes. This is not a micro thing. You have to first come up with your phase. So after inception and conceptualizing, what does one have next usually as a phase? After you've conceptualized what's supposed to be happening continuously still. You can have either planning or project development. Right? Maybe you should try to get all the phases. Then what could be phase three? What would come after that now? What would come after project development? Y'all did this, right? Not so? Oh, Lord. That's my fingers moving too fast. I'm not hearing anybody. Didn't y'all do this with Miss Debreu in class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right. So tell me, please. So then, what would come in phase 3 then? After you've done project development.
How much pages you have, like 4?
It depends. It's up to you. It depends on your project. I put 4 spaces. It could be 5,
Oh,
but you gotta go along the journey. You see. So after inception and conceptualization as phase 1, phase 2 is project development. What then would come after project development? Do we understand what is project development here? This is where you're molding and shaping up the project now. What would happen after that?
Is it implementation?
Correct. Oh my.
okay. I was just, I was just pretty weird.
Right. So you have project implementation. So phase 3 is project implementation. Why is phase 4 in the context of festival project for y'all?
Evaluation.
You're skipping something.
Reflection.
Same thing as evaluation, that would be. What is a very unique thing that has to occur in your project life cycle? Because implementation is when you're working with the students and all of
Presentation.
that.
Uh,
Sorry?
presentation,
Ah,
Exhibition.
presentation or execution. Or,
presentation. Because implementation and execution is basically all the same thing, eh? But as
all
Elizabeth Crystal, they're saying, she's saying presentation. So yes, so project, presentation. I think sometimes students here in the past have just put showcase here as well. But I like presentation because then you could put showcase here and you could say what are the activities that going to make up having to deliver or present the showcase. Does everybody understand how you fill this out now? It is critical that here is filled out correctly in terms of the phases, so I help because we basically worked on them just now. And the reason why that is critical is because when you come to approaches now, you have to put back those same phases. You have to put back those same phases there. You can't change them from what you have up there. And then you start to identify approaches, tools, and techniques. Okay? Now, I am going slowly here simply because I want you all to fill this out as comprehensively and as best as you can. I am assuming that you all have begun to work on your proposal, that this is not a case where you are waiting until coming close to this 25th. I see Andrew already asked already when when is it due, right? You want to be working on this every time we do something. You want to go and start to work on that and build that into your document. Okay, is everybody hearing me? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions about this particular table here? No. Okay, so
Dr. Tal,
go
in
ahead.
having an interface with the target group in terms of the personnel associated with the target group and so on, would that be phase 1, part of phase 1? Interface.
In terms, yes, seeking them out. Not so? You mean seeking them out or that kind of thing?
Yeah, getting data from the institution, for example, in my case, things like that. Would
Yes, that
that
comes
phase 1?
correct. That comes inside of there. Well done.
Wouldn't that be phase 2 when you develop any project? No?
No, are you not speaking, Andrew, about when you are making that initial contact with them?
Yes, and getting data about the characteristics of the
That,
current
that
target
would
group. Yeah,
that would be in phase 1.
phase 1.
Nicole that was asking the question, that would be in phase one. Your project development, what happens in your phase two here, quite possibly, if you do it like this, is that you may find that you in this area now is it's a case where based on what you have put in your proposal is like they are now mapping out. So it come like your project mapping where all of what you have in the proposal now, you're going now and you're doing further research, and of course you're writing out in detail now your essay, your lesson plans. And why does that keep doing that? Right. You doing out your lesson plans, and you may be engaging in um testing out certain aspects of the platform that you're using. You engaging with your target community, you're brainstorming. So you would find that brainstorming will come back here as an activity. So components here in terms of project development maybe things like lesson detailed sorry lesson and activity planning. So you may find, and it does not mean necessarily that every phase has to have 5 and 6 components, but certainly for every component you should have a few things going on, because then how else would you really be executing a project in the strongest possible manner? It's no way that one could have a component and just have one activity, if you follow what I'm saying. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Dr. Sol, excuse Nyla posted in the chat that she was speaking, but we weren't hearing her.
Right. I did respond and tell her no, we did not hear her. Check. Perhaps Nelly, you may want to go out and come back in. Sometimes that happens. But in the meantime, if you don't want to do that, you can certainly post here in the chat, type if it was a question or comment that you wanted to make. I wonder if she's hearing us. Aha, she is. Okay, great. Okay. Right, okay, so let's wait and see what Nyla was asking us. Please forgive the typos, class, just trying to type it all quickly. Oh. All right, so let us look now at the next table, project, the last thing we'll do today. So the point is that for every phase of your project, there will be particular approaches that you are taking to achieve the phase, and you'll be using certain tools and techniques for doing so. I believe for those who are using specific techniques associated with dance, you will probably find it very easy to map out, because we know that the technique itself, the dance techniques that you are using, will have within it certain ways of going about achieving it. So those are your approaches, and there are particular tools that you may use. And a tool, for example, is like in theater, where we would have a theater game that you use to break ice. I think they call it breaking ice even. Am I correct? Where are my theater students?
Icebreakers.
Icebreakers, correct. So an icebreaker is a tool, right? And the project approach associated with that may be that you are seeking to bond. So the project approach, and that may happen, I think that probably is happening in phase 2 or phase 3. Let's say phase 3, whichever one was execution and implementation. So you may have one of the approaches that you're using inside of there is group bonding or group synergy, and the tool that is being used there is icebreaker. Okay, so however you map it, you want to make sure, and of course, because the phases will have a number of components, it is expected that you will have maybe more than one approach to doing something. Approaches within a phase because they are all targeted at different things. So you would have it mapped out. Project approaches, and you list them there. Tools, techniques. Right? In some instances, you may be using a particular technique that doesn't have a tool per se. Okay, no problem. Or there may be a tool that you're using, but it's not necessarily associated with a particular technique. You know your project. This is how you show yourself up as the expert here. Okay, so you exhaust it. So if we take phase 1, which is, oh gosh, mouse, because I use any trackpad. Phase 1 is inception and conceptualization. Okay, so one of the so we know for sure that one of the approaches that will be used there, let's say it might be that you're doing concept mapping. You might also be doing, so brainstorming could easily come back here. All right, so just to show you how it is done. So the point is, in this table here, this is where you show yourself up as the expert here now. And this is how we get you to start to drill down into this project concept that you've come up with to make the project real. All right, I'm going to unshare screen shortly and show you how Carice Marie would have done hers, just that you can see it by way of example. For every approach that you have put here, then you are asked to justify why you are using them. So if, for example, you are using concept mapping, right, what is the strength of using concept mapping, right? Does everybody understand how you are supposed to fill out this section here? Any questions about it, rather? Yes, class, I'm waiting on you. Any questions?
None from me at this time.
All right. Nicole, is this clear to you?
Yeah, I think if just once like I see how Chris did it, I would have like a bit of a clearer understanding.
All right. I think also that clarity will rest, because these sections, these are research sections. So in other words, this is not a case where I can tell you what to put there. but you all know your project, and when you do your research, you will be researching to see what are the different approaches and tools and techniques that are associated with a project such as the one you've chosen that can be used, you see. So I suppose in a sense, it's not a case where I could teach it in that way, but it's basically more a case of showing you how it is supposed to be done. So I'm going to just unshare for me there, Felix, please, and let me pull up Carissa's. Let's hope we can still get at it. Yes, it's still. So this is her components and activities. Conceptualization and introduction. So for project introduction, she has building and introducing the concept of the project to the school's board. Specific activities, identifying a target community, identifying the venue and what have you. Introducing the project to the target community. Because of her project, I remember she started very early on because she wanted to have enough time in the field with the students. So in her conceptualizing introduction, she didn't leave getting to know the students to down in execution. So she had that early, and she put therefore then the activities she used then to be able to engage the students and get them to warm up. Let's scroll down now to project approach, as we were saying. So we know that that phase is project conceptualizing. So Andrew, you see your thing comes back here. Look, background research, right? And this is the things that were involved in doing background research, meeting the community, planning and organization, brainstorming, right? So when you scroll now to approaches now to strengths, right? So why is it in conceptualizing? These are the approaches that you use. These are the approaches that you use, and why it was important. What are the strengths of doing these things? Nicole, that is clear now?
Yeah, well, can you scroll back up to the part with the approaches, tools, and techniques?
Sure. And also remember that I am recording it, so you would be able to go back and look at it, the recording, when we're finished. So this is her first one, project conceptualizing. So this is her approach. These are some of the tools and techniques that she would have used. All right, let's look at another phase. Brainstorming, project planning and organization. Right, so if I had to pull another proposal, I should ask maybe two others to submit theirs who did very well. I'll get see if Shedrack can bring his. I have about 3 of them to come and talk to you all as well. You would see that whilst they obey this part in terms of the phases inside of here now where the tools and techniques are, it gets varied because of course it depends on the project and how the student is approaching the project. Any questions or comments about this? No? Is everybody clear?
Yeah, it's going to be very specific based on each person's
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, you can see that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And that is why I asked for her to send it back, that we could have a look at an example as opposed to me teach it in a particular way and making you feel that it has to be exactly as I say. That would be counterproductive. You see, the other thing is that you are the project manager and you are the expert. That is how the course is structured. And so, even in the writing of your proposal, these particular sections that we're looking at today are supposed to bear that out, supposed to reflect that you are indeed the expert. As a matter of fact, you may recall I had said at the start of the course that when you're given a supervisor, your supervisor is not similarly an expert in the field. So, for example, if you're doing a dance project, it wouldn't be Dr. Westby or Miss Paul, but rather you will get a supervisor who is from one of the other units, because the supervisor is there to guide you in terms of project management. But you are the expert with regard to the particular platform, arts intervention, sorry, platform, arts-based platform that you are using as the intervention, for the intervention. Everybody understand that?
Yeah, but Miss, wouldn't it be easier if we had like people from the same
Not
discipline? As
right
in,
now,
how
but
we put it,
because
how we
I'm not
can
hearing
do it now? You know, hearing?
quite
You hear me
muffled.
now? You hear me
A
now?
little better. A little better.
All right. I was saying, I thought Nicole and Orilla is doing two techniques, right? Wouldn't it be easier for all? Never mind. Forget that. It's to
Okay,
guide the management of the project, right?
that's right.
Okay.
I, the only part I heard pretty well was never mind, forget that. Because I don't know, your device, maybe your mouth is a little too close to it. Because I wasn't hearing very well at all. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So can I trust that we will begin now to work into our proposal? What deadline did I give you all to return the one pages to me? Is it today?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I look out for those because I want to send off your your one pages for supervisors to choose. So over the course of the week, they will be taking a look at those and choosing who they want to work with this year, and you will begin to build your proposal. Next week, when we come now, we will look at implementation. We will look at the last two or three sections of the proposal template. I would like, if possible, for us to have another makeup class on Thursday so that on Friday I can have one or two students come in to talk about, former students, sorry, to talk about the festival project. And of course, I will have them deal with these early parts as well as that whole idea of your showcase and working with your target community. All right. Everybody's clear on that?
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
Okay.
anyway,
Right. Okay, great. All right, class.
kind of.
Sure, let me hear. If it's kind of, let me hear what maybe causing a little confusion. Let me see how I can address it.
Um, I'm not 100% sure exactly where the little um, hiccups might be. Maybe when I start drilling down a little more, I'd be a little more clear as to um, where the issues are that I think I may be facing, or that maybe all modeling my mind at the moment. And so
I
based
see.
on
This is with regard to writing the proposal, or this is with regard to the project as a whole?
combination of both, because I mean they sort of go hand in hand in terms of um, expect to do and listing it in this format so that somebody else can be aware of what you want. But in terms of, I'm not sure if it is that you have to choose which aspects or the main aspects that we detail here, or in trying to be specific, how specific do we drill down drill down into? I mean, the example gives us some ideas, but in terms of transferring this into our own circumstance, and that's where, um, for me, trying to bridge it, that's where. But as I said, I'd
My
probably when I
suggestion
start to drill down some more.
My suggestion to you, Felix, which I have often noted is a challenge for many persons who are creatives, is that you have to trust the process and you have to take it one step at a time. The way in which project planning and project writing is done is that if you look at it as the big picture, it can be overwhelming. And it may seem at this juncture that there is little or there isn't some clarity as to whether or not it's a matter of dealing with the micro, inserting the micro issues vis-a-vis um, painting the broad brush. But as you begin to develop the proposal and you follow the guidelines in the template, you will be able to complete it satisfactorily. You will see what will fit where. Because in every section of the proposal, specific things are asked of you. And so, what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks is to learn what those specific things mean and to, in this instance, I decided to get an example. Now, this is the first time I've ever really done this, because just what you said there, I am always concerned that it can overwhelm, because you're seeing somebody else's thing and you're watching and I say, well, wait, boy, how they arrive at that. But based on the project that you have and based on the discussion that we have, I'm honestly not worried for you. What you need to do is to trust the process and follow the template. That is why I said you can't sit down and attempt to do this in 1 day or 2 days. But every week, even if it's not every day of the week, bit by bit, you plug into the document. You plug into the document. There is a part where details will be required because you also have to do your implementation plan, which is one of the lower sections. And that's like if you had to do lesson plans then. So if you know, so that's where in your mind now you map out the project in terms of the things that you will want them to learn, but you are looking also at the time frame that you have. You see? But before you even get to that, these are the conceptual and strategic matters that you have to deal with, because if you have to go for funding for a project, these are the things that they will look at to determine whether or not the project has scope, to know if the project is worth funding. You see? So it's just a matter of taking it one step at a time, right? One step at a time.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yes, thanks. I certainly appreciate the example, seeing the example, because it sort of gives us kind of like a little small map to
Mhm.
start, a sense of seeing what it can look like. So I
Yes.
certainly appreciate the example.
Yes, I thought it best because I mean, I ordinarily, if we were able to be face to face, those of you who are conscientious would have taken a trot off to our festival library and take a look at someone else's, because sometimes the documents are in there. Because when you have to do your final documentation, your proposal goes back in, so you get to see somebody else's finished and final work. So I thought it would be useful if you were able to see what someone else's own, how they were able to arrive at these things like being asked of you in the various tables. So I'm happy to hear that it did achieve what I hope that it did. It would, sorry. Anyone else? Any other questions or comments? I would like to get some feedback from the rest of you, if you don't mind. Anyone else? No? Kemi, are you comfortable with what you see in there? Oh no, Nyla, we wouldn't be. You correct the one page and you would submit it. As a matter of fact, I suppose we submitted today, right? Because you have now to be working on your proposal.
Is he hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Yeah, yeah, it making sense. I did do one of the objectives, and I just want to say it so that you can tell me if it have
Yes.
following the format, yeah. So it was for my topic, identify and discuss 5 road traps within the first 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yes. With your group.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes. Yes. That is good.
But
Excellent.
otherwise, everything, how Felix feeling, but everything clear so far.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I do too. One step at a time. And I'm making a note of that to get one of the speakers who will come to address that. Get Shadrach to address that. One step at a time. Right? Trust the process. This is many persons have used this successfully. So just trust the process. A lot of the micro elements, if they don't fall into the proposal, you chances are will have to document them when you do your progress reports and when you are documenting the execution of the project. Don't forget, it is important. I would suggest that every step of the way as you do the course, that you go back into the course outline, the guidebook, and see what's there and make sure that you are doing what you're supposed to. But more importantly, there are guidelines. That's why it's called a guidebook and not necessarily a course outline, right? So there's guidance there for you in terms of how you are to approach certain things. You see? So don't take that for granted. Use that as well. Asha, is this clear? Are you able to follow this?
Yeah, it is. Um,
You could probably take a look at ask Karen to let you see hers as well.
yeah, I spoke to her yesterday actually. So
Crystal, it made sense. I know you were saying never mind. I know it was about the supervisor thing, but is this clear to you?
Yes, it is.
All right. Okay, and Andrew, I believe you understood. Nicole had said already. All right. Well, class, let's put a full stop here. I don't believe in overwhelming. I think that this is a good place to stop for now. I would like that you are able to digest what we have done today. I am just give me a few minutes and I will download the recording and upload it to the YouTube channel that you will be able to access it as you need to and revisit the discussion in terms of how we moved from doing the developing the objective and the broad objective and then the specific objectives, and then of course when we look at how we break down the project components and the associated activities. All right. Right.